In the vast and restless landscape of mid-19th century America, a nation trembling between conflict and change, the year 1850 stood like a crossroads where courage, fear, hope, and uncertainty collided. And among the loud voices of politics and power, the most transformative heroes were often the least recognized. Women whose bravery rewrote the destiny of a growing country. And today, in this documentary, we journey back into that turbulent era to uncover the powerful stories of those fearless women who dared to challenge injustice, redefine womanhood, and spark movements that still echo through modern America. In 1850, the United States was deeply divided, the North industrializing rapidly, while the South clung to the brutal system of slavery. Congress passed the controversial Fugitive Slave Act, forcing even free states to return escaped enslaved people to Southern owners. And this law ignited moral outrage across the nation, fueling resistance movements that would forever alter American history. But behind many of these acts of resistance were determined women, teachers, abolitionists, nurses, writers, mothers, who lacked formal political rights yet wielded extraordinary influence through courage, intellect, and compassion. Imagine the candlelit homes of the Underground Railroad, where women like Harriet Tubman, already famous as Moses of her people, risked capture, torture, or death every time she returned to slaveholding states to rescue enslaved families. Though small in stature, she possessed unbreakable resolve, guiding hundreds through forests, marshes, and moonlit backroads, armed with nothing but her faith, her revolver, and the certainty that freedom was a God-given right. Meanwhile, in New England, Sojourner Truth, a formerly enslaved woman-turned-speaker and activist, traveled from town to town, delivering electrifying speeches that challenged the foundations of racism and sexism. Her voice, deep, commanding, unforgettable, pierced through prejudice. And when she spoke her iconic words, "Ain't I a woman?" she forced thousands to confront their own hypocrisy, reshaping the national conversation on womanhood and equality. In quiet homes and bustling cities, writers like Harriet Beecher Stowe sharpened their pens into weapons of truth. Just a few years later, her novel Uncle Tom's Cabin would explode across the country. But even in 1850, she was gathering stories, testimonies, and injustices, preparing a narrative so powerful that Abraham Lincoln himself would call her the little woman who started this great war. Yet beyond the famous names were countless ordinary women whose extraordinary actions rarely make it into textbooks, school teachers who defied community pressure to educate both black and white children, Quaker women who sheltered fugitives in secret cellars, frontier women who built towns, defended their homes, and farmed unforgiving land while their husbands traveled for months at a time, and immigrant women, Irish, German, Chinese, who fought poverty, discrimination, and backbreaking labor to build new lives out of nothing. Consider the story of Lucy Stone, one of the earliest women to earn a college degree. She refused to take her husband's last name, an act so shocking for the era that newspapers across America debated it, and she traveled the country delivering fiery speeches demanding women's suffrage, equal pay, and property rights at a time when most states did not allow married women to own anything, not even the wages they earned. In the medical world, Elizabeth Blackwell shattered boundaries by becoming the first woman in American history to earn a medical degree. Mocked, shunned, and denied opportunities, she persisted until she opened the New York Infirmary for indigent women and children, offering care to those ignored by traditional hospitals, and proving that women's intelligence and skill belonged in every profession. In Kansas, as tensions over slavery turned violent, women such as Clarina Nichols stepped into activism, fighting for property rights and child custody protections that would later become fundamental parts of American law. And across the West, women like Narcissa Whitman, Mary Fields, and countless unnamed pioneers crossed treacherous terrain, survived harsh winters, and defended wagon trains from attacks, helping to expand settlements and create the cultural foundation of the American West. Meanwhile, inside textile mills of Massachusetts, Young mill girls, some as young as 15, worked grueling hours, yet organized some of the earliest labor protests in American history. Their letters, poems, and public speeches criticized unsafe conditions and unfair treatment, laying early groundwork for future workers' rights movements. Even within enslaved communities, women were often the backbone of resistance, mothers teaching their children forbidden reading lessons in secret, healers preserving African herbal knowledge, storytellers keeping cultural identity alive, and freedom seekers who, as we look back at 1850, it becomes clear that women, black and white, rich and poor, free and enslaved, were not silent observers to history. They were architects of change. They hosted abolitionist meetings in kitchens, wrote pamphlets in attic rooms, risked prison to hide fugitives, stood on public stages despite heckling crowds, and some even picked up weapons to defend their homes and communities. Though they lacked the right to vote, their influence penetrated every corner of society, inspiring lawmakers, mobilizing communities, and rewriting moral values in a country struggling to define its identity. Their bravery continues to inspire modern movements for justice, equality, and human rights. Today, we honor these women not just as historical figures, but as symbols of what courage looks like, ordinary individuals who chose to do extraordinary things. Their legacy reminds us that you don't need power to make change, you need purpose. You don't need permission to speak the truth, you need conviction. And you don't need a perfect world to be brave, you only need the belief that a better world is possible. As we share their stories, let us remember that the freedoms many enjoy today, education, civil rights, women's rights, economic opportunity, were built on the sacrifices of these women, who lived in the shadows of 1850 but shined bright enough to illuminate the future. Their courage echoes across generations, reminding us that history is shaped not only by presidents and generals, but also by women who dared to stand up when the world expected them to remain silent. And perhaps the greatest lesson they leave us is this: when one brave woman rises, she lifts the world with her.